What's up, dudes? Chooch back with another video, and today I'm doing a full review of the King Song 18XL right here. And I've had this wheel for a while now, and I really enjoy it. I've taken it on all the terrain I've taken the other wheels on. I've taken it off-roading on some crazy hard trails, taken it through the city, done some commuting on it, everything pretty much that you would do on a wheel. And I really enjoy this wheel. And I've taken a bunch of notes on it so I can tell y'all everything about it that you'd probably like to know. The wheel, first of all, it feels incredibly natural to ride. Riding backwards was very easy on this wheel. The rider feels very connected to this wheel. And this is due to one of the things on here that I really actually like, that I thought that I might have a problem with to start with. You see these pads on the side. They're a lot smaller and a lot thinner than like traditional pads like on the Gotways, than on the King Song 16S even. But what this allows for you to do is it allows for your entire leg to have contact on this wheel. So your entire leg, all the way up the side of your shin right here, all the way up on the inside of your shin, it's all connected. Instead of having that one contact point where your leg would push on the pad like on the M Super Series or even the King Song 16S, you have full control of this wheel, and it doesn't rub on this little bone right here on your foot. I don't know exactly what that's called. It doesn't rub on that or anything. It feels really well. I got no red markings. Like usually whenever I start riding a new wheel, I'll get like red marks on my legs in like a different spot, you know what I mean? Then like say coming from the M Super V3S, getting on the M Super, I got like some red marks a little bit higher on there because of the contact point. But this, it just felt natural from the get-go. I got no problems with it. There was no discomfort riding this thing. The pedals were big. I think that may have been one of the things that helped me just grip this thing and allowed me to really feel like I was one with the wheel. I felt super connected to it. One thing I really liked about it is like your one-legged riding tricks. This kind of goes along with what I was just saying. Your one-legged riding tricks, whether you're doing like one-legged spins, you know how some people will put both feet on the outside pedal and kind of lean in on the wheel, riding backwards one-footed, all that stuff was a lot easier on this wheel because you have so much leverage. Like you literally can just, like this is a big wheel, and so this massive contact point right here offered all that leverage, so you could ride one-footed, you could spin, you could really trick this wheel. And my favorite trick wheel before I got this was the King Song 16S. That thing was perfect for doing all the flat ground tricks, bunny hopping it, doing like 180 bunny hops and stuff like that. And this, even though it's quite heavy with those big batteries, it felt like an incredible trick wheel being an 18-inch wheel. It felt awesome. That's one thing I really liked about this. And for tire pressure, guys, so on this wheel, I like my tire pressure a little bit higher than I traditionally ride my M Super, and like I rode the Z10. I kept it at about 23 PSI, and I messed with it a lot. Whenever I got this wheel, it was around like, I'd say it was near 30 PSI, which was a little bit too hard for my liking. So I let some air out of it, took it down to about 23 PSI, and it worked out absolutely perfect. So 23 PSI is perfect for a 120-pound rider. And off-roading on this wheel, I liked the air pressure a little bit lower, and I took it down some really rocky trails and stuff. Like I'm talking like some super gnarly like rocky trails, and some trails that had a bunch of brake ruts in it. So you know, like mountain bikers, when they're coming into a corner, they'll lock up brakes and it creates those braking bumps. So whenever I was riding that trail, I took it down to about 19 PSI. And we're doing commuting and stuff, like if you're commuting down the road and you want to get that full 75 miles out of this thing, that 75 miles of range, it actually says 80 on there. If you want to get that full 75 to 80 miles, you really need your tire pressure like a 23 or above on this thing. If you're going down like the 19 or whatever, it's great for off-roading, but it will cause a lot more friction, but you'll get less mileage out of it. This thing, as soon as I got on it, it felt like it was like a luxury SUV, like a feeling. And I know I've said that about like the M Super and stuff like that. They're like the Rolls Royce, you know, like comparing them to like the Ferrari, stuff like that. This just feels like you're getting in one of the brand new like Chevrolet Suburbans. And this thing just feels like, it feels like it just Cadillacs along. It is absolutely great. So that's one thing I really like about it. It's a big wheel. It tanks over all the bumps, any type of potholes, anything like that in the city that would just throw you off, you know what I mean? Even speed bumps and stuff, man, this thing just tanks right over it, and it just keeps on trucking. And I really like it. And I let my buddy try it out, and he was riding my ACM, so we went on a bunch of rides. He was out here for the week snowboarding, and we went on we rode these things everywhere. And I let him use my Gotway ACM. He really liked that wheel a lot. He's partial to like electric skateboards, and he really likes the boosted boards and stuff like that. and he wasn't really thinking about getting a unicycle. I mean, he could ride the hell out of one and he really enjoyed it, but he wasn't really thinking about buying one. And I let him get off that ACM and get on this thing, and he cruised around on this thing for a minute, and he was like, dude, I'm buying that wheel. He's like, I am getting home and I am buying that wheel. And he liked this wheel more than any of the other ones he tried out. He liked this wheel the most, and he just, the big pedals on it, I mean, this thing just Cadillacs, man. You can just cruise on this thing, not even think about it. Put your hands in your pockets and just cruise along and get on to where you need to go. It's one thing I was impressed, though, that he liked this wheel over everything else. He liked it a lot more than the Gotway ACM. Another thing on this wheel is the headlight is, the first night ride, we went out around like a super, super dark trail. Absolutely no lights around it or anything around this lake. And the headlight on this thing is insane. I mean, it dwarfs the other headlights of the unicycles I own, like the Gotway Super X, the ACM, my V3S. This thing lights up the entire path, and it's a wide angle. It's like a super, super wide angled light, and it lights up everything. I mean, this is the brightest light of any electric unicycle made right now. I promise you, it is the brightest headlight. But the range on this wheel is incredible. Like one thing that really impressed me on this wheel more so than anything is the range on it. And you can ride it top speed, like you can ride it 31 everywhere you want to go, and it's not going to eat up the battery. Like on some wheels, like the M Supers like that, if I ride those top speed, it just eats the battery. Like if I'm just trucking, trying to get somewhere really fast, and I'm just keeping it ticked out like above like 35 miles an hour, it drains the battery really, really fast. But this, keep it at 31, keep it right there on the beeper where it's about to lean you back, and it still won't drain the battery. We went, the other day we rode 45 miles, we went all the way across Denver, we stopped somewhere, we went all the way back across Denver, we ate, and my buddy, he charged up the ACM, we sat there forever, we let the ACM charge up, and this thing, literally, it had dropped like two little bars of battery after riding all the way across like Denver. Like I'm talking all the way from downtown Denver past Aurora and then all the way back. I literally dropped like 2 bars of battery. And that amazed me right there. The fact that, I mean, that's the 820 watt hour ACM, and it literally was struggling in, and I had 2 bars of battery drain on this thing. So the battery life, I mean, this is the top of the line commuter wheel right here, I'm telling you. The speed on this thing, however, is one thing I noticed. That personally, I needed a little bit more speed on this, but not for everything. There's certain situations where I put myself in that I felt like I needed a little bit more speed for safety reason. Whenever I'm riding through traffic or whatever, the bike lane may be blocked, as you know. If you live in a city, you know there's always a moving truck, there's a delivery truck, something blocking the bike lane, and you might have to pop out onto the main road. And there was one situation where I did that. I popped out onto the main road, and I went, like, I lane split between these cars, and usually on the M Super X, this is no problem. I can lane split between the cars, and then as soon as I can line up in front of them, they can see me because I wear the vest, and then I can take off. Like, I don't do that on roads like above like 40 miles an hour. But this thing, I was on like, it was like probably a 40 mile an hour road, and this thing's top speed is 31, and so I got lane splitted, and there was a green light, boom. As soon as there was like 1 car in front of me, so I was like, oh, and I laid it down full speed, and I got right in front of that car, but he was close to me, and usually I could take off down the road, and I got a kickback on this thing. It leaned me back a little bit, and that was kind of scary in itself because I felt like I needed a little bit more speed, and that would have been a little bit safer in that situation. And that's not for everything, and that's not for everybody. But one thing on this wheel, I would keep it to the bike lanes. If you have bike lanes or anything like that, or keep over to the side of the road, maneuvering in and out of traffic on this thing, you might get to a point where you need a little bit more speed, and it's not going to be there. Like 31's the max it'll go, and it's just going to lean you back. And there's no way to really turn off the tilt back on this wheel or anything like that. But that's one thing, the one thing about this wheel, and that's just me. If the wheel looks great, it's super sleek. It'll be plenty of speed for most of you guys out there, but just stay out of traffic. Don't go on the main road with this thing because you might get to a point where the cars are going faster than you and you can't stay in front of them. So that's one thing you really need to be careful about. The speakers are great. As you know, in the first unboxing, I gave you all a little rundown of the speakers, but I mean, usually I would connect a Bluetooth speaker. Like I'll take a Velcro strap and put a Bluetooth speaker on my wheels. But even on my 16S, I did that because the 16S just didn't, the speakers weren't that good in it. But this, I could easily hear my music even with the wind and wearing that full face helmet I always wear. And it's not so loud and obnoxious you're gonna bother people around you. It's perfect so you can hear it as the rider, and you're not gonna need an aftermarket Bluetooth speaker on this. You can play your music and enjoy it fine on this wheel. The wheel, it really turns heads due to, like, I think just how large it is and how smooth this thing rides on your commute. And I was just sometimes I was cruising down the bike lane, and man, every single person I passed, and this is usually in the case on like them Super and stuff like that. I mean, a lot of people turn heads, but I'm telling you, every person I passed on this thing just stopped dead in their tracks and turned and looked. And we did a lot of night riding, and I had the music playing with the lights, you know, changing to the beat and everything like that. But just, I mean, this thing is just so smooth. It seemed like everybody that saw it wanted one. It seemed like literally every person I passed on this thing was just like, holy cow, like I have to have that. Like everyone asked questions. If I popped this trolley handle up and rolled into the train station down here, if I rolled in to go somewhere to eat, anything like that, the entire place had to come up and ask me what it was, where do I get one. They were just so interested in it. And because, I mean, when you fold these pedals up and you pop this gnarly trolley handle out of here, it literally, and you go rolling in somewhere, it turns heads. I mean, it just inevitably turns heads. Everybody wanted it. That's just one thing. It just everybody wanted this wheel. It literally glides effortlessly. On something like on the Gateway, you know how the handle's positioned on the back and you're kind of pushing it from the back or whatever. This thing, when you pop the trolley handle up and you go in somewhere and you're just pushing this thing along, it's like one of those automated like Bluetooth suitcases. It literally just like, you can almost just have one finger on it and just push it along and just cruise, and it looks like you got some fancy luggage or something, you know, just pushing along. And even that turns heads. I mean, I walked through the train station with this thing and everybody was just like, oh my gosh, what is that thing? What is that thing? But it's really cool. I love the design of it, and this trolley handle is the best of any wheels by far. Every wheel needs to make a trolley handle like this, that tall, and make it where it's centered, it's center of mass right here, and so you can push it along effortlessly wherever you want to go. Another thing is this wheel is stupid torquey. I mean, like it'll go up inclines that you would never expect. Like we have some stairs in Denver where you can walk up the stairs and you can push your bike up the stairs, you know, like they have a little rut right there where you can push your bike up. And this thing is like, it's like 45 degree. I mean, it's literally 45-degree angle going up it. And my buddy's like, right up that, you won't do it. And I literally just like, okay. I literally just torqued right up that bad boy. I'm talking like this thing just went, like it didn't even lag at all. It just torqued right up it, and it didn't feel like it was going to give out or anything. And other steep hills and stuff, on like hills that I would never try on other wheels, this thing just, I mean, it just torqued right up that bad boy. And also the acceleration, even with like torque being that good, your acceleration usually takes a hit. But acceleration on this thing up to 31 miles an hour is, I mean, it's snappy. You get on this thing, you lean into it, and it takes off. I mean, getting from 0 to 31 on this thing probably takes like 5 seconds. I mean, it just takes off. So that's pretty cool. The top speed I was able to get on Darkness Bot and on the King Song app or whatever, it was 31 miles per hour. And that's what this wheel's rated. But whenever I got the kickback, it said please decelerate, and it kicked you back a little bit. It was 31 miles per hour. And I really don't think there's any getting over 31 miles per hour on this wheel. I mean, you may be able to mess with something in the app or whatever, but I think 31 miles per hour is where King Song's programming is going to keep you on this wheel, which isn't a bad thing. 31 miles per hour is going to be absolutely plenty of speed for most of you guys out there. Most people picking up this thing won't even get it to 31 miles per hour, or probably. So I'm glad that they upped the speed from the other wheels. I'm glad King Song is getting more into the performance side of things where they have the speed there. And 31 miles per hour is a big step for King Song. And one thing that I really like about King Song is just their build quality on these things. And on the axle, since I do a lot of off-roading and stuff, on like the M Supers, on any wheel that's not a King Song really, you have basically this design on the axle where you have one bolt that screws in. It has a bolt that screws in, and you have two shims. And when the bolt tightens, the shims tighten around the axle. And what will happen is, one thing that is a super pain in the butt is if you're off-roading or whatever and you end up loosening your pedal hangers, which is like, there's a pillar that basically goes up right here inside, and it connects right to the axle. And if that loosens on any other wheel, it can be a super pain in the butt to get them level again. You can tighten it up, but in order to get them both centered, you need like a vice grip. You need a vice grip on this side and a vice grip on this side to hold it down while you tighten it. If you're just trying to do it in an apartment like me, since I don't have a shop or anything like that, I mean, you got to do all kind of stuff. I had to wedge it in between two dumbbells. I had to like fight it on the floor. With this, the design is like this. Your pillar has two bolts in the top of it. It has a bolt right here and a bolt right here. And the pedal hanger, you can literally just tighten the two top bolts with Allen wrenches. Like literally, they just go right on there, and there's no mistaking it to where one of these sides is going to be off centered a little bit. So like if you tighten up the guideways or whatever, and one side's off center, just even a little bit, your shell is not going to go back on right, and you have to take the whole thing back apart and realign those pedal hangers and get them dead perfect. I mean, level perfect across, and it's just hard to do that. This is a lot more simpler maintenance. You can literally, if one of the pedal hangers comes loose, you just tighten up the Allen bolts in the top of them, and you're good to go. And it will be absolutely perfectly centered. There's no fooling with it. So that's one thing I really like about this wheel. Another thing is, the parts are readily available on this. You're not going to have to do any outsourcing. King Song Europe's going to have them in stock. Jason with E-Wheels will always have parts in stock for these things, and they're really cheap to get. So like if you damage the outer panels of this thing, you can literally just buy new outer panels for this instead of buying an entire new shell. Like with the M Supers, if you get a cracked shell, if you fall or anything like that and really knock it and put a dent in it, you're gonna have to buy an all new shell, which can cost up to like $350 for the new M Super. These are 95 bucks. You get two side panels for 95 bucks, and that's really helpful. And if y'all are learning out there and you get some scratches on your wheel, even if you're experienced and you get some scratches on your wheel and you want to make it look new again, all you got to pay is 95 bucks and you get a full new outside shell of this thing to replace. And that's one thing that's also really, really nice about this wheel. Let's go over some specs here. This thing's 84.2 volts. It's just like the M Super X 84 volt. M Super X has a 100 volt as well, but this is going to be the exact same voltage as the common M Super X that has a 1600 watt hour battery in it. 84.2 volts is kind of the standard on these more performance wheels now. You're going to have a 2000 watt motor, which is the same as the M Super X 100 volt and 84.2 volt counterpart. Like I said, the headlight is incredibly bright and the tail light is incredibly bright. People will be able to see you from behind and from front on this thing with no problems. I mean, I wear the reflective vest and stuff too, but still, if you're riding this at night, it's super safe with the lighting option to get you. It has water resistant internals. The water resistance on this is really, really good. Your motherboard's at the very top of this thing. So if you're riding through puddles or anything like that, your motherboard is all the way up here on this. With other wheels, your motherboard's about right here. So if you ride it through like a little creek crossing or anything like that, it's like kind of like a snorkel would be, like on like a Jeep or something like that. It has your motherboard and stuff that could get damaged by water as high as it could possibly be on this thing. So riding through puddles, riding through like little canals, whatever it may be, it's at your own risk, but just know your electronics and stuff that can get damaged is at the very top of this thing, which is the best place you could put it. With the 1554 watt hour one, 78 mile range on this thing is what you're probably going to get. And that's no joke, that's no lying. From my experience riding this thing, and with my weight and with a pumped up tire, you could probably even get more out of it. Like there's no other wheel where I've been able to really get the range out of it that it says like on different websites and stuff. But with this wheel, easily I could see you getting almost 80 miles out of it, no problem at all. Parts cheap and available, like I said. Also on this wheel, like going back to the whole maintenance thing, maintenance on this wheel is going to be pretty much as easy as it comes. You don't even have to take off the pedals to change the inner tube on this thing, because there's so much room in between your pedals right here and the rim. You aren't even going to have to remove the pedals at all to do a tire change on this thing. The connectors on this thing, the battery connectors, the motherboard connectors, everything like that is those nice, it has the yellow connectors that just snap together. There's no heat shrinking or anything like that. Like on the M Super V3S, pretty much your connectors go together, and then you have to take heat shrink tubing, put it over it, and melt it down. And every time you want to disconnect the motor wires or anything like that, you're going to have to do that on the M Super V3S. But with this wheel, You can literally just unsnap the motor, you can unsnap this motor connectors, you can unsnap the battery connectors, everything like that is just easy disconnect, and you can just pop it right back in with no problems at all, which I really like. One thing on this wheel is whenever you first get it and it limits you to 25 miles an hour, don't think something's wrong with it. That's one thing that King Song does, which I think personally is a really good idea. If you're an experienced rider and you've had other wheels before this gotta be a pain in the butt, but this is just the way that they do things. For your first 125 miles, you're going to be limited to 25 miles per hour on this wheel. Once you pass that 125 miles, it will fully unlock the 31 mile per hour capabilities. And that's just because, just statistically, most riders within the 125 miles, that's whenever if you're learning, if you're new and this is your first wheel, most of the injuries will happen in that first 125 miles. And that's just because once you learn it, you get this like invincibility type mindset and you're just like gunning it, you know what I mean? And anything can happen if you're not really keen to braking, if you're not keen to moving around somebody, pedestrians and stuff like that. And your first 125 miles of learning is where those accidents are going to happen. So King Song just limits that, just probably to cover their ass a little bit, honestly. So once you pass that, you can take this bad boy up to 31 miles per hour, no problems at all. And all in all, I really enjoy this wheel. I'm probably going to end up actually buying this wheel myself and use it as a commuter wheel, getting back and forth, because I'm going to be commuting soon. I'm going to have to commute from Boulder all the way to Denver. And one thing I'm going to do is I'm going to hop on the Boulder-Denver Turnpike and come all the way into town. That's going to be a long ride, but I'm going to have to do it twice a week coming up, because I got a class in Denver and I'm going to have classes in Boulder. And so I'm going to just get on the Turnpike, just go down that bike trail, and round trip, getting all the way back from to and fro Denver to Boulder, it's going to be like 60 miles. So this thing should do it. It should have no problems. I'm probably not even going to have to recharge, due to the fact that the speed limiter on this thing, it kicks in so far. I mean, literally you can probably get, I'd say, 65 miles out of this thing before it's going to start limiting your speed. So I may carry the charger with me and charge up into class or whatever, but I think that I can get from Denver to Boulder no problem on this wheel. So this is going to be my commuter wheel right here for sure, dudes, and I really enjoy it. There's really no complaints. And King Song nailed everything with this wheel. Your off-roading, your on-roading, everything about it, your turning, your tricks, everything on this wheel was absolutely nailed. And keep it up, King Song, because you got a huge fan right here. I'm a huge fan of King Song wheels. I put probably 3,000 to 4,000 miles on my King Song 16S. I really enjoyed that wheel. I used to ride it all the time, and that was before I got my M Super X. But anyways, dudes, 100% 2 thumbs up on this wheel. If you want it, don't hesitate. Buy this bad boy. You will not be disappointed. Get it. Appreciate it, dudes. It's been Chooch. Link in the description takes you to eWheels where you can buy this thing. I get a little kickback from if you purchase through the link. It's no extra cost to you or anything. It just helps me out with keep making these videos for y'all. And I really appreciate it, guys. If any of y'all have gotten through that link, just know I really appreciate that, and I will keep them coming for you guys. But anyways, throw the thumbs up if you enjoyed it, and I will see y'all in the next one. Have a good one now.